Hey, what's up team? This is Eddie Gray. Welcome to the channel, The Modern Creative, where we help you become a better producer. And today we're talking about the Console 1 mixing system. I want to show you the workflow, but first go ahead and subscribe. Let's go. So let's talk about the similarities. Input and output volume are here. So if you want to add some more input gain, you can do that here. If you want to do that on the fader 1, here's the output volume, and you can access the input gain by clicking on that button right there. Other similarities include the low and high cut. You want to make those decisions on the fader 1, you have to hold the low button and create the movement there, or a high cut by sliding there. So if I open up the companion software on the drums, if I hold low cut, I am now accessing the low cut, and so you can make the adjustment like that. So this is really nice if you're into tactile feedback. It does feel pretty good to ride in this vehicle, so to speak. Other similarities include the drive and character. So we have this available to us in the Console 1. If you want to access that within fader 1, you have to click on the drive function here. You can see on the right hand side that I'm including the drive. One of my favorite features about this unit is if you leave this at a value of 5.0, you're able to acquire some analog emulation. And if you want to add a little bit more character, you click on that button there, and depending on which track you have selected, highlighted here in white, you're adding character to the signal. The latest update allows you to not only access width within the Console 1, because that's something that we didn't have before. We only had width in the fader 1, so now they share that similarity. But now you can access drive by holding shift and clicking on track selector number 6. You couldn't access drive previously on the Console 1. That was set exclusively for the fader 1. So there are some similarities between both units. Some of the biggest differences include not being able to use the transient shaper, the equalizer, and compressor within the fader 1. Sure, you can low cut, you can high cut, but you won't be able to do a lot of the heavy duty work that is normally associated with mixing if you don't have this pair. Another big discrepancy is soloing. It's very easy to solo here inside of the fader 1, but if you want to solo here, you basically can only do it one track at a time. So that's definitely a big disadvantage, not being able to solo more than one track. On the fader 1, it's very easy. And if you want to clear the solo, you would hold shift, click on all, and then just hit solo, and that will basically take us back to our default view. You can't do that on the fader 1. There's no option to select all. So this is one of the reasons they both work well in tandem. These units also rely on one another because on the Console 1, you have the ability to look at your history. So I haven't made any mixing decisions yet, but if I click here and click on track selector number 5, you can see that I have a history tab, and I can go through all the various choices that I've made. I don't know how many undo steps you have. Now you can backtrack just in case you want to kind of recall something you did, I don't know, 10 steps ago. So you got to love that. If you only have one or the other, your software is going to look a little bit different. So just a heads up on that. Here, I want to do something really quick. I just want you to hear how much it's already doing to the signal just by being on the track. So we're not making any serious decisions. The only thing that I have set up in advance is drive on 5.0. That's my default. Every time I instantiate Console 1, it always does this so I can get the analog sound. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift All, and we're going to go ahead and basically bypass everything. So you can see everything's bypassed, and we're going to listen. We're going to see back and forth what is the Console 1 system doing to the signal just by adding a bit of drive. Here we go. Okay, so let's get started. One of the very first things that I like to do is I like to add low cuts to elements that don't need any low end information. So I'm going to go ahead and create a group. This group is going to include the acoustic guitars, the electric guitars, pads, the sound effects, and that is all. So once you create a group, anything that you do will apply to each and every one of those that were inserted in the group. So I can low cut here and low cut to, let's just do 120. So now if we cancel out of the group, we're back to this view. And if I go back and forth between each one of the tracks, you can see that that same EQ decision of cutting at 120 has been applied. Now, one thing I like to do is route all of my effects into an aux channel and basically increase the width. So I'm going to do that here. You can also do it here just to kind of move the reverbs and delays out of the way. Let's just use a value of 50. And on that one, I might as well also just put a little bit of a high cut. So that's what that's going to look like. Very smooth. And these are motorized faders. So you'll notice that they move along when you automate or you switch from volume, drive, character. Okay, so now I've got that up and running. Let's see what else we got. We have 3 assignable buttons. I have this one assigned to play. So let's go. Okay, let's start with the bass and drums. Let's thicken up the bass. Let's add a gate to it so that it closes a little bit more when it's silent. And then we'll kind of fix up the drums and decorate them. Here we go. Now, if you wanted to choose another EQ, this comes built in with the default solid state Logic SL4000E. I'm going to change that, select EQ here, and for the bass, I'll select the British Class A equalizer. So let's go ahead and add that, and let's see what kind of sonic tone we're getting. All right, one of the things that you should always be doing when mixing is bypassing the signal, bringing it back in, and seeing what kind of a difference it's making. So let's try that out. Okay, subtle, but I like how it's being shaped. Let's pick a compressor. So hold shift, go to compressor. Now you don't have to select just individual units. You also have channel strips available. For this, let's go ahead and use the smooth compressor, American Class A. All right, let's see what this sounds like. We'll go ahead and bypass this track. We'll keep the drums in there just for reference. Now, if you look at the middle of the screen below the EQ, you see the block order. I have the dynamic shaper first, the equalizer second, and the compressor. You can change the order of things. Sometimes it makes a lot of sense to do that. So in this scenario, we're putting the compressor first, maybe to control a bit more of the content, and then run it through the EQ. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so what happens if we put the equalizer first, then the dynamic shaper, and depending on what you choose, it's going to sound different. You have de-essers in there, you've got transient shapers, gates. Let's listen to this. Okay, I like that one a lot. Let's bypass it just to make sure. Yeah, you can already hear a big difference. Let's go ahead and add some character to the signal. I already have the drive set at 5. I usually leave it there, to be honest, but this just adds a little bit more grit to the signal. Let's try it out. I'll bring down the output volume of the bass just to kind of balance out the drive and the volume. Let's see what that sounds like. If you want to bring in some of the dry signal, you can do that here. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so let's move to the drums. Here, just from the outset, I know I want to add some width just to make things a little bit bigger. So we're going to go hold shift and we'll increase the width. Let's try this out. We're using drums, and so I'm going to go ahead and load drive, and let's apply some tape emulation. See what this sounds like on the drums. So we're on track number 2. We're going to bypass it, so shift click here. See what this sounds like. Okay, let's move into EQing. So we can select an EQ and replace the 4000E, or we can just select a preset by clicking on this button right here. So let's go into the factory channel strip and we'll select the Chandler. And let's go with drum bus live up the kit. So what kind of stuff do we get? What kind of decisions are they making for us? So it looks like they have an EQ, a compressor, and then on the drive stage, they're adding a little bit of dirt there. Let's take a listen to the preset and then I'll bypass. Okay, so that is a pretty big difference. Let's go ahead and just bring down the volume of the drums a bit. Let's go down by 1 dB. All right, let's move on and bring the acoustic guitars into the mix. Here we go. All right, I'm going to start off by compressing, and let's choose another compressor unit. I'm going to go with the British Class A compressor. Let's see what this sounds like. One of the reasons I really like the units is because the EQs are so adaptable. I can make pretty significant choices in terms of range. I can exaggerate, and usually things sound pretty darn good. Let's go ahead and put the channeler limited EQ on the acoustic guitar, and let me just increase like a high shelf, and let's see what that sounds like. So it's very forgiving in that sense. If we bypass it, let's check before. All right, I'm liking what I'm hearing. We go and just back off of the overall volume a little bit, and let's move on to the electric guitars. Here we go. So here I'll start by adding drive. To me, electric guitars are very much driven by just the character of the drive. And so for that, I think I'm either going to go with Chandler or Empirical Labs. Let's see what this sounds like. If it's too aggressive, then I'll back off. But let's take a listen. So this really brings me to the reason why I bought this and why I'm going to stay with it. I can get so many things accomplished: volume, drive, character, panning, stereo width, low cut, high cut, dynamic shaping, along with compression and equalization, all of it in just one system. I don't have to spend a bunch of time, going through a bunch of plugins, which can be really exhausting when you have a bunch of plugins. I've spent all these years getting a bunch of plugins, and I love them all, and they're all amazing in so many different ways. But sometimes you just need to quiet the mind, and you just need to work on the task at hand. I'm going to go ahead and add some bottom, but before I forget, I'm going to make sure that this bass is as mono as I can get by moving that all the way to the left. So sometimes when basses are recorded, depending on if they have reverb or chorus or not, they might be a little wider than normal, but I want this to be completely mono. And then for the guitars, I definitely want to add some low end. So I'm going to start with a low shelf, and we'll go from there. Okay, let's replace this EQ. Let's start with the extended EQ and kind of go from there. Okay, I'm going to try and fish for some problem frequencies somewhere up here. All right, so this is before. Let's take away the drum so we can really hear it. Yeah, so that's a pretty marked difference. I like the drive characteristic, so I'm going to stay on that. Let's take a listen now. All right, so just with these decisions, let's see how far we have gotten. We're going to bypass everything. Check it out. So we're definitely in a better place. I'm gonna go ahead and add some high mid gain to the drums just to try and get a little bit more of the percussion in there. Okay, so without thinking too much about it, I know that I want the pads to also be kind of wide, so let's increase the stereo width. All right, let's bring out a little bit more frequency content. So here in the shape section, I'm going to go ahead and add some tape. All right, let's see if we can color the signal a little bit. And then let's add some EQing. Let's see what we can bring up. I want to do the Gambit series wide EQ, so let's see what that sounds like. Here we go. So on the tape, I'm going to decrease the speed stability so it sounds kind of wavy. Check it out. Okay, and then from there, I'm either going to do a high shelf or a really broad high mid gain decision. Let's try the shelf first. Here we go. So that's a really amazing sound. I mean, think of it. Here's before the EQ. Check it out. Let's add that back to the picture. Do you hear that hissing, that beautiful tone that's just starting to come out? Now, these Gambit series are known for being very clean as well. So let's go ahead and finish off here. Let's go ahead and clear solo. And then let's go to the master. So on the master, I'm going to go ahead and go for a preset. So let me cancel out of here. Let me hit preset, and I want to do a channel strip. And let's go back to the Gambit series because it is so clean. And let's see what sounds good for this. Let's try mix bus. All right, so let's see what kind of decisions they made. We'll cancel out of that menu and let's take a listen. So if you're listening with good speakers, good headphones, that's a pretty big jump in production without really having not done much at all. All right, to close out, we're selecting everything. We are bypassing everything. Let's see what we got. The verdict is in. Console 1 mixing system is definitely the right choice for me. I can see this not being the right choice for some other users. If you have the time, energy, the space, the resources, I say you go for it. This is something that will require some dedication and discipline. One thing that should be top of mind is, are you really going to take the time to learn it and to use it? Something else to look at during this entire session, I don't even know how long we went. I didn't look at the screen very many times. Once I was in this mode, you were just completely inundated by the information on the screen. So if you're willing to take the time, energy to consolidate all of your tracks, I mean, this is easy, right? I only have a couple of tracks here, so it's not that complicated. I don't want it in the context of creating 75 different tracks and, you know, selecting through all the various banks. I'm not into that. I love simplicity. I love to lose myself in the mix and in the moment. So thank you so much for watching. If you like the content, go ahead and give it a like. Go ahead and subscribe. When we hit 3,000 subscribers, we're going to do something special. Thank you all. Have a great day. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.